We're live.
Live. Good to see you.
So live. We're alive.
Everyone watching this at the time they are watching it. I guess maybe some people might claim otherwise, but
No, there might be robots in the future watching it, and we could question, are they consciously alive? So what about that sociological study we talked about a few weeks ago?
it's
So
interesting that we could question whether they're alive, but also take for granted that they are watching it as like they are they, and it seems like splitting certain hairs. Kind of all one or the other, I think. Anyway, welcome
oh
to
my
the
gosh, all one or the other. Okay, sorry. You
uh,
do the spiel, Brendan.
welcome to the This Is Not Therapy Hour. I am Brandon Tessers.
And I'm Caitlin Miller.
And we are both licensed therapists, but this is not therapy for very, very many reasons.
So many reasons.
So many. It is just an open conversation. Caitlin and I are here talking with one another and talking with you all, whether you're here live with us now or watching this later. We're doing our best to make our guesses about who you are and what you're interested in and how we're coming across to you and impacting you. For those of you who are willing and able to participate in the chat, we appreciate that because it gives us a lot more information on which to base those guesses about who you are and what you're interested in and how we're coming across and impacting you. We do our best to read out comments as they come in because we're streaming on 3 different platforms simultaneously, and each of you will only see the comments that come in from the platform that you're on. So we try to read it out so that everybody's on the same page. We will start by just talking about whatever we're talking about. Please don't let that slow you down or stop you from hopping in and saying whatever you want to say. Don't worry about whether we're on topic or taking us down a rabbit hole, questions, whatever. We encourage interruption and interaction. If nothing else, we care more. Caitlin and I get to talk a lot, which is nice. This is our opportunity to talk about things that you all are interested in. So we would want to do that even if there was no other reason, but there are other reasons that we want to know whatever you're saying anyway. We work with a private therapy practice called Effective Artistry. Our office is located in Northbrook, Illinois. We do individual, couples, family, and group therapy with people in the states of Illinois and Wisconsin. We also work with some coaches who can work with people all over the world via the internet, doing executive functioning coaching work and parenting coaching. I think that's it. Is that it?
I think you usually say something about how it gets rebroadcast and you're going to read the comments out loud because streaming on multiple platforms.
I do, but I'm pretty sure I did say that.
Oh, okay. Great.
But in case I did not, yes, we read comments out because we're streaming on multiple platforms. We want everyone to be on the same page. Yeah. How you doing?
I'm getting a headache, so I actually might run and get some ibuprofen. It was coming on during the intro.
That's a bummer.
So I'll do that really quick and mute my mic. One moment, Brandon Tessers.
Okay. Well, I'm good. We're into summer now, which, I don't know. I'm a parent of 3 young children. I hesitated more because my kids are not my youngest is now 4, my oldest is 10. I still think that's young children though. And them being on summer break is a significant change to how things work. And it's funny to me how much that's baked into the way that at least the US culture operates, not just the culture, the economy, everything. That even for people who aren't in school or who don't have kids who are in school, there's still a shift in how we approach the summer. People tend to travel more in the summer, for example, which makes sense logically when you're at school the rest of the year and then you have time off in the summer. But even the people who don't have school and don't have kids in school tend to travel in the summer more as well.
Which, being from the Midwest, I'm always the time to travel is the dead of winter, where you're I don't even remember what a green bush looks like, let alone a tree, let alone the sun.
Yeah. Certainly in terms of taking a vacation, and people do travel a lot in the winter, especially around the holidays too, is a big travel time. That just reminded me of a thing that's not relevant to anything, but just there's a reason that we have a big holiday where we're like, everybody just put a bunch of lights on the outside of your houses and stuff.
Yeah.
That happens in the dead of winter.
Remember the light.
Laughing in California. Uh, yeah, I was born in California. I lived there first 3 years of my life, so I don't remember living there really, but I visited there a lot, spent a lot of time there. I have a lot of family there. California is awesome, but they still do Christmas lights in California, and we still bring in an evergreen tree into our home to remind us that even though things aren't green right now, they will be green again. Even though in California, especially Southern California, you don't necessarily have the same patterns with the foliage.
Mhm.
Anyway, how are you? How's other than getting a headache? How are you?
Okay. Yeah. I don't know how to describe it on a stream. Yeah,
Okay,
I'm doing
fair enough.
fine. Yeah.
Anything?
Oh, I was reminded of the magic of theater this weekend. I saw um As You Like It in the Up the Hill Theater at American Players Theater, and APT just won a Tony, and so one of the like main directors, as in like admin staff, not director, like directing, she was like standing with a pedestal and the Tony was there, and she was encouraging like patrons and people in the audience to like take pictures with it. And then like the main artistic director was there, and so like it was fun to the opening night stuff was really fun, and I saw some of the other actors that are like kind of the main roles in other shows that are also launching around this time. And then I was in the audience with three people who I took there, and it was all their first time at APT. And David Daniels had the like all the world's a stage like soliloquy or whatever it's called. What is it called, Brandon? The when one actor says,
It's either a monologue or a soliloquy, depending on.
okay,
I mean,
I think I
it's a
meant the
monologue
word
either way.
monologue. Yeah, monologue. So, and David Daniels is like so good with poetry and so good with the poetry of Shakespeare. And so I got chills like 7 times during his monologue. And there were like the 7 things about like all the world's a stage and we're all players or whatever. And then I noticed these like synchronicities during the show. But anyway, it was beautiful to welcome 3 new people to APT, to like show them the
APT is
magic of
short
it,
for
to see the Tony Award. What?
APT is short for American Players Theater, which
Yeah,
is
it's in Spring Green, Wisconsin. Um, and they just won a regional Tony Award. And so yeah, it was so anyway, so that was like a highlight of my weekend
that.
is that.
I'm like worried I'm wrong about all this stuff now, but that that is from Macbeth. That speech, not As You Like It, right?
I
Am I
thought it
getting
was
this
all the
right?
world's a stage and we're all players in it, and
Yeah,
this we have sevens. I thought that
it's
was,
from. I thought that was from Macbeth, but I guess I could be getting it wrong.
let me look.
Um,
I'm pretty sure it's As You Like It, and it's the show I just saw.
so again, I'm so worried I'm making a mistake, but
As You Like It, yep. Jocks and William Shakespeare's play As You Like It, Seven Ages of Man, Act 2, Scene 7.
interesting. Um, well, cool.
And I
And
was David Daniels, like he did these really dramatic pauses during it, and so I felt like I followed it really well, because like he would give one of the stages of man and then pause, and I felt like I could take in, I don't, he did such a brilliant job. Um but anyway, it was fun to be in like the opening night energy too, and to see people like rallying for each other, and it reminded me of the importance of community. And yeah.
cool, awesome. I mean, I agree that that's where the magic of theater is in the communal nature of it. It's not certainly not the only art form that requires community, um, but it is up there for sure.
Mhm.
and the structure of it. You know, there was a comment. Hey, you're a Californian, proof we produce good stuff, which, like, thank you.
That's cute.
But there's a bit of a stereotype that has its roots in something real, of like theater is for theater people, you know, like the majority of people who are going to see theater are people who are also involved or want to be involved in making theater.
Hmm.
I don't think that's necessarily true by the numbers, but like there's certainly trends there. And as things move forward, like as an art form, it's not. I love theater. Like that was my undergrad. That's when I was an actor. I was much more focused on theater than as an art form. It's not gonna like do well persisting into the future. Um, for similar reasons to like why opera, you know, doesn't do as well over time and stuff like that. I'm talking about like in terms of having an audience and making money and being sustainable. Like ballet, similar. These things all rely on donations to be able to survive, and it's a whatever. We don't need to get into like my thoughts on what the industry of it all is, but yeah, like theater, making theater is a very, very cool communal experience. Um, there's a reason that we have so many like community theaters where people who don't do it professionally and have no interest in it or ever really even did get together and work together and like dedicate a lot of time and resources to it. And I think it's largely about the community of it, communal aspect. So very cool. Glad you had that experience.
Your mic sounds a little fuzzy, like you're in water or something. I don't know if it's that way for the commenters too. It could be my end because I don't have the best internet signal right now.
Let me know if it is.
That's way
I'm not
better.
sure what it would
Now
be.
it's better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Live theater is great. Good live performance. Just performance art in general. Like it has some stuff about it that you can't really replicate outside of it. There's a reason that people love going to concerts, even though if you're talking just about like the listening to the music, you have a much better experience of that listening on your home setup or on your headphones and whatever than in going to the concert. People sum it up as like the energy or whatever, but you know, there's something about the way that people read each other and respond to each other and feed off of each other that happens in live performance. I'm hoping there's a swing back to theater as something that is as in person and communal as you can get, and involves a lot of humanity and handicraft, and is generally not done with AI. Yeah, I think theater is great, and I don't think it's going anywhere. But as an industry, like art is very separate from the arts industry, and at least in our culture in the U.S., those two things are conflated quite a bit, to the extent that like everybody thinks about it as whether they're good or bad at singing, right? Like not just people who want to be professional singers or get paid for their work as a singer. That's just the default way in which we evaluate singing, is like how good or bad at it are you. And the theater industry, like certainly it has long past its peak, because it provides many things, and some of those things are still valuable. Some of those things it's just out competed by other stuff, right? Like in terms of entertainment and things. So I don't think theater's going anywhere, but I think it's been a long time now that theater's been shifting more and more and more towards it's about participating in it more than it is about being an audience for it. If that makes sense.
As in like being an actor participating, or are you saying places that include audience participation?
No, I'm talking about on the like production side, but not just acting, you know, writing, directing, stage design, crew, tech, you know, all that stuff.
So what do you mean it's more about participating than being in the audience?
So for audience members, it's about like what we could call entertainment. Uh, Performance art always is. It's not just about the art of it; it's also about the experience of it. It's live, and so imagine that there's a hypothetical small town where there's two restaurants and they're closed by 8 o'clock and whatever. Like the only thing to go out and do outside of your home or just hanging out with people is the theater. And then the next year, I don't know, paintball place opens up that also is open at the same time. So we would assume that fewer people are going to be going to the theater because they have more options of what to do with their time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Uh, and for various reasons, both like cultural and technological, there's just more and more and more options as time goes on for how people can spend their time and what they can do for entertainment. And theater, I very much think is a very different thing than film or TV or streaming or um, but there's enough overlap in it that for most people, it's going to get categorized similarly.
Mhm.
Sense that like I don't think anybody's saying that a movie and a stage play are the same thing, but they do tend to occupy the same category in terms of how I'm spending my time and money.
Mhm.
Um,
For most people.
for most people,
Yeah.
and there are just like inherent disadvantages with the business model and the art form, and it's not like there's nothing that can be done, and people are experimenting with those things
Mhm.
for a long time. But to put on a play that is in any kind of way like technically impressive, like to build a set or have sound design or whatever, it requires a lot of investment in time, money, whatever. And what that means is that theater companies can only put on so many shows in a year. Uh, and they have to run those shows in order to have any way of like even coming close to making some money back of what they're spending on it. They have to run each show many, many, many times. So depending on the theater, a run is usually like 3 to 6 weeks long. It opens and runs for 3 weeks to 6 weeks or so, and then closes. Most theater companies are doing seasons of 3 to 5 plays, and most theater company seasons run from on the academic calendar, like we were just talking about, like early fall to late spring. And then there's summer stock, which I'm assuming is what APT, what you just went and did there. If it was opening
Mostly, yeah.
in June.
Yeah.
Uh, so like you only have so many shots, and even if you really nail it, for the most part, people don't go and see the same play multiple times, right? Like
Mhm.
so you need to sell out your theater 30 different times for the same show, and you're not getting the same person coming back and watching it a second time for the most part. It's just really tricky to do. And if you have a misfire, you put up a play that doesn't do well, that's like a third of your yearly um, budget and opportunity for revenue. Whereas if someone like a streamer has an off day and puts out content that nobody's interested in, like, well, they're putting stuff out 300 days a year. That's different. Their hit rate doesn't need to be 100%. Theater company, it really, really does. And that's not even getting into like the process of workshopping stuff to get onto stage. Like most people, when they're thinking of theater, don't think of new theater because most theater that people see is not new. I mean, we're still doing Shakespeare, and I love Shakespeare. That's not a complaint by any means. I
Mhm.
genuinely love Shakespeare. Uh, but it is very difficult and getting more and more and more difficult to develop new stage plays, either straight play or musical, that then like have any kind of legs. The model that used to work for that just doesn't really exist anymore. There's a reason that all the big, not all, I'm exaggerating, but like there's a reason that the vast majority of the money on Broadway is going to musical adaptations of famous movies and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not nobody, but like Chicago used to be a city that was storefront theater focused. Storefront theater is like we're talking about small theater companies with relatively small budgets but consistent seasons. Usually it's called storefront theater because either they own a little storefront that can fit like 40 people in, or more often rent out theater space for when they're putting out a show. And that scene was just devastated beginning of COVID. It was already on the decline, and that just accelerated.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like so many. So there's a theater in Chicago, a theater company called Steppenwolf that's pretty famous. I don't know how many might know of it that aren't either from Chicago or big into theater. But it was founded by people who are now famous, Gary Sinise and John Malkovich, and their friends that all went to, they all went to some college together. Maybe it was DePaul acting school, whatever. And like some of the biggest, like August Osage County, that got turned into a movie with Julia Roberts a while back. That's something that started at Steppenwolf before doing so well there that it was then moved to Broadway. So like, there's not as much opportunity for new young theater artists to cut their teeth, like without the small theater companies for them to work at, and, playwrights to get their early stuff written and up on its feet. And then, you practice and learn and grow. And then you move into the more medium size or the regional theater or whatever. There's just, the stream is not there as it was. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. It's not like there's something about the business model of theater that was like inherently good or whatever. It's just theater has a lot that's inherently great about it. And then that was monetized in a way that worked in a particular cultural context.
Mm-hmm.
Band, not the theater. Yeah. And then the cultural context has shifted. And as with so many things, people have just been trying to make the model that had been established persist rather than adapting it. And again, not nobody, people experiment, but anybody hearing this, probably every single piece of theater you've seen was done in a relatively traditional model. And that's just not it's not like how theater is meant to be done, and it's not gonna work that way. It can't compete with everything else. But it is inherently beneficial, and so it's not going anywhere. But a lot of that benefit comes from, well, as you were putting it, Vast Insider in the comment there, like humanity and handicraft. Like, I can write a play about my town, and we can put that play up, right? You're not going to go see a movie about our town because it doesn't matter everywhere, but we don't need it to matter everywhere. So that older model of like everybody's trying to design things, even when they're not consciously thinking about it, is generally written and done in such a way that it's like
to be scaled up
to the national stage and then be distributed. Mm-hmm. In fact, a lot of the stuff that I think like that does really well financially and isn't in danger of going anywhere is stuff that most theater artists really look down on. Like,
which is what?
Parody stuff, people where like, so a lot of times if you go to like a little vacation town, right, like a little lake town or whatever, they'll have something playhouse there, and you go and see a show there, and it's like dinner theater. A lot of it's like melodrama where you're supposed to like boo when the villain comes out and whatever. And sometimes it's like Pirates of Penzance, but they've changed it a bunch to make it funny to modern audiences. And there's a lot of like breaking the fourth wall to just make joke. It's almost like a mix of theater with improv and stand-up kind of thrown all together. And that does pretty well. People like that kind of stuff. But it's not like, that couldn't be turned into a Broadway show. You know what I mean? And so it doesn't get that kind of like serious recognition. Same with improv. Improv's not going anywhere. It's not like a great way to make money, but it's a fun night out. It's not going anywhere. But yeah, as much as I love theater, I really do. And I do believe it'll never be gone because too many people love it. But it's not it's a niche thing, and I wouldn't be confident in saying that like if Chekhov were alive today, he wouldn't have been a screenwriter instead of a playwright. You know what I mean? Like I think people get this idea that like no, this is like the soul of it, and that's how it always is. But like no, it was the art form of the time that worked in that context and was done in that way. I don't know if what I'm saying makes any sense. I don't know how relevant any of it is anyway, but that's what I mean when I say it's going to be more about participating. Is like many games that like Dungeons and Dragons or Magic the Gathering are two like the most known of their particular genres. But there are many games that still thrive and are popular and will persist. But it's a niche thing, and it's mostly like the people who are interested in it are part of the community built around it. Because people aren't just like popping in to try it out or whatever very much. So theater is for theater people. Operas for opera people, ballets for ballet people. Like these don't have broad appeal, and there's reasons for that. I'm not saying that
What art forms do you think have broad appeal now?
at this point in our culture,
Yeah.
music, video games, film, streaming, things that are accessible to people at very low cost, not just financially, but also in terms of like what
They don't have
equipment
to leave their house or whatever.
and things that can generate a lot of content, either in the sense of like streaming where you can just generate a bunch of content because you're just doing it, whatever, or in things like video games or board games where the audience's experience of it is varied. So there's a lot of what we call replayability. You know, you can spend, depending on like there are video games, especially ones that are thought of as like esports, where people can spend thousands and thousands of hours playing those games and enjoying themselves. I don't personally necessarily, I wouldn't say that those types of games are like the best or most artistic, but art is art, you know, like I have my thoughts on it.
Why do you think music works still in our culture as like a more popular art form?
It's accessible. In fact, it's even
Yeah.
more accessible than it has ever been before.
Yeah.
I can go and look up like whatever song I want to listen to. I can just plug it in to YouTube on my phone and listen to it for free as much as I want. I can listen to it at home. I can listen to it on the go. Audiobooks also are, I think, becoming more and more popular for similar reasons. They're very accessible. And it's becoming like much more diversified in large part because of the technological changes, right? Like when Gone with the Wind was put in movie theaters, I don't know the exact statistic on it, but some like huge percentage of Americans saw that movie within the same like 3-month span of each other. You know, like 70% of people in the United States saw that movie. And so it's a huge, like everyone's thinking about it and talking about it, becomes a huge dominant force. That's why this is part of why we don't have blockbusters these days that have anywhere near the sort of cultural impact that older blockbusters had. There were only so many movies, and you could only see it when it was in theaters. Now you can make a movie on your phone that can be good quality, and some of the stuff that's most popular these days is stuff that isn't like technologically super impressive. So that means that there's way more options out there. So people can find things that are catered to their exact specific taste. And the communities are like even more niche and smaller and fractured. Like talk to a metalhead about the different kinds of metal, and they'll list off to you like dozens of different subgenres of heavy metal. Where like in the 1980s there was like 3, you know.
Yeah.
Not that we couldn't now retroactively apply that label, but it wasn't discussed in that way. It's one of the nice things about the internet or about digital technology is the increased connectivity, right? Like if you love heavy metal and you live in a place you're not reliant on like the 4 other people at your high school that also love heavy metal. You can go online and find all kinds of people all over the world that love what you love. And
Mm-hmm.
fandom is becoming more of a thing and stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, look, obviously things are changing and things will always change. And each of us, including myself, have our thoughts and opinions and like what things we think are good changes and what things we're really sad about and wish it was going to be different. But that doesn't change that it's all changing. And it also doesn't, just because things are changing doesn't mean that it's like bad and good is a very reductive thing. And just because something isn't more popular doesn't mean it's not good and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, all of these performance arts, because of the way the industry is structured, it's been decades now that they've been reliant on massive donations from their
Mm-hmm.
season ticket holder base, basically,
Mm-hmm.
to be viable. But theater is one that, as opposed to opera, ballet, um,
Symphony?
symphony, that's the one I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
As opposed to those ones, theater has much more flexibility to go like low tech and low budget.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's not a requirement that you have like 100 and whatever it is different instruments and people who have trained to play those instruments their whole life, like
Yeah.
so I do
Yeah.
think it's suited to be persistent. And the model that works for ballet and opera and symphony and whatever, I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon, where like each city has its like major metropolitan company for that thing, but there's more or less like one per big city, because that's what there's the funds to support.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that like TikTok videos are not a substantial evolutionary difference from Vine videos and not Vine videos, Vines, whatever. And that wasn't a substantial difference from like meme videos that were posted on Facebook. And that's not a substantial difference from stand-up comedy. Like we find our ways to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying all equally, they're not the same. They have different strengths and weaknesses, but I do think theater will do well in the future. I don't think that the theater industry will do well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're quiet because you're getting a headache or you don't like what I'm saying.
No. I can't think of a way to meaningfully contribute that I think is better than what you're saying or more useful. I'm thinking about how this applies to, and I'm curious if anyone in the comments or anyone watching wants to change the course of the conversation. But the way I was kind of applying this to myself is I feel lucky enough in the past like year to have extra energy resources that I can allocate towards making art. Oh, it's very loud.
Oh, sorry. I'll turn it off.
Do you want to mute yourself and I'll talk while you're making tea?
No, I'll just make tea later.
Okay. So because I'm lucky enough to have some like energetic resources now to allocate towards making art, I did a bit of it and I put things out in different ways, and I feel like I'm learning from what is impacting people more than other things that are impacting people less or whatever. But I have been thinking about like, what does it mean to try to build a better world, and what type of art do I feel the most called to make that would do that sort of melds with the therapist identity, and also the distribution element, like how easy is it to access it and all of those things. But I was stopping myself from talking about that stuff because I think that's more of like a one-on-one meeting with you sort of conversation. And I feel like the points you were making about how the culture has shifted and what people consume and what people don't, and the limitations of things was more applicable to like a stream setting. But I felt like I was following along. Yeah. So that's why I was being quiet. Is
I really, there always has been, and there will always be a thing of like people like what they know and like, and when things are then like different than what they know and like, it's not that we're all closed off to that or that we're equally closed off to it as each other, but there's always going to be a trend, a statistical bend towards like you like, and the older you get, the more you've had experiences and acquired things over the course of your life that you like, and so the less room there is. You know, when I want to go listen to music now, I put on music that I know that I like. Actually, one of the things I personally wonder about, that's funny, I was about to give an example of the thing I'm trying to talk about.
no, do it.
I will. I'll explain it
Oh,
first.
okay. Okay, cool.
Um, of course, different people respond to it differently, but like so much of what we look at as snobbery, for example, is people who have a preference for like the way that they like things to be, and therefore look at new stuff that's different as being less than. Um, there's a comment here. I think it's interesting to look at this through the lens of D&D live plays, because big players in the TTRPG space like Critical Role and Dimension 20 sell out massive stadiums for people to watch them essentially do live improv theater. But to get those crowds, they have to build their base online. Went to a Critical Role live performance, like just like literally right before COVID, like February 2020.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, it was sold out, and there were issues with like the ticketing system or whatever, so we all had to wait outside in the cold in February for like an hour and a half before they even started filing people in. The show didn't start. It was supposed to start at like 7:30 and it didn't start till like 10:30.
Wow.
And it was sold out. Because
Yeah.
people want to gather together. They just, all of us, of course, we want to gather together with people that we enjoy, and you know, that we have some level of confidence that we can engage in the things we want to engage in, and that will be well treated and well regarded and whatever. So, you know, the kind of event or fandom or whatever that we're going to is part of how we seek the, you know, I talked to a bunch of people in that line that I've never spoken to again and never thought that I would, but like for that hour and a half, we're just a bunch of people talking about this stuff that we all enjoy talking about. Yeah, what I was going to say is like, I honestly don't know how people find new music these days, because for me, it was the radio. I just listened to the radio and they picked whatever to play. And so, of course, because that's what I'm used to and that's how I found new music, like, I don't know, like how people find this stuff. And I genuinely, honestly don't. I know people do, obviously, like people, you know, they get it recommended by friends and whatever, but somebody's getting some recommendation from somewhere at the beginning of it all. But it's hard for me to fathom, like, and not only do I have a difficult time understanding that, because whatever it is so different from what I experienced, but there's a knee-jerk response to be like, well, the way I had it was better, you know, like that the radio just played me new songs all the time and I couldn't just choose what I wanted and listen to the same thing. I'm like, that's really good. But of course there's downsides to that too. The gatekeepers had so much more control when it's like, you got to get your song played on the radio for anybody to hear about it. You can't just put it out there. I went to a live show a few years ago. It helps, I think, that a bunch of people I know and see frequently in person are also interested and want to go to these things, for sure. Which, like, that is theater, right? Like, even the live plays, I can understand someone putting a line of like, because the audience is not in the same physical location as the performers, we don't call it theater. I can understand that distinction. But it's a fine distinction, right? It's still live performance, similar to streaming, like literally what we're doing right now. Not that we're like anything like the more, you know, people who do it to make money, but like the live performance, we're responding to what we get from the audience. What we get from the audience is different. How we get it is different than if we're sitting in the same physical location. Yeah, things change.
Yeah, I'm organizing a festival on August 8th. And it's been interesting to think of like, how do you get modern human beings to show up at a location in person, and what do you offer them? Um and also what you were just talking about in the commenter. I was at the APT concessions and someone was like humming a show tune, and their partner behind me was like, "Oh, if you start singing out loud, there's so many theater kids in this concession stand lined, we might just all sing together." And I was like, so that sort of like theater theater kids is like a colloquial term that I'm talking about, actually adults, like so adults who were theater kids or whatever. But yeah. Um
which is awesome. And the fact that like if you do that, not only will a half a dozen other people jump into the song with you, but like so many of them will harmonize with you
yeah.
flawlessly and like
Yeah.
really technically proficient.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
we had a comment of the kind that I don't usually read out because it's spam, best promotion on streamview.org, like offering to buy viewers. But then we had a real comment. Oh my goodness, the best promotion? How exciting.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
as with everything, humans, we want things to be simple, including me, right? That's not a flaw or whatever. That's it's a matter of being finite and having only so many resources. So we look for
Mhm.
this, most overarching answer. And when things are on a very large scale, especially prior to like the proliferation of digital technology, that involved systems, which we could, if we want to, refer to as gatekeepers. But there are entire systems at play that select what things then get distributed to the large scale. And
Mhm.
so much of what people think about art and so much of what people think about promotion and live events and is really based on that specific model of how it worked.
Mhm.
With everything, we want to be as precise as we can be and select what we do based on what the particular specific context is and what we're trying to accomplish. And so,
Mhm.
like for some events, what you offer is a communal experience, and that's what you're. And for some
Mhm.
events, what you're offering is like, um, I don't know how to. I want to say access, but that doesn't sound right. Like if you have somebody that you've listened to their CDs over and over, CDs, CDs, you listen to their albums over and over and over, and then they're coming to your town. There's something about just being in the same room as that person. You want to go
Yeah,
to that.
I felt that way watching Andrew Bird live in Millennium Park in Chicago. I was like, I love some of his early stuff and like weather systems and how he melds his classical training as a violinist into like folklore indie music. And there was something about like communing with him and other people who also really, so it, I guess access feels like an accurate term to me
Yeah,
with
maybe.
that.
There's certainly a component of identity involved where like, you
Yeah.
know, going
But
to
I
that.
think what I'm trying to do at the festival August 8th is a communal experience is more of the thing that falls under, versus there's not really like a person it's highlighting or an access kind of thing. It's more of
Well,
a
there's
communal
other
experience.
some things are about like an experience that you can't replicate, not just the community aspect of it, but like um my kids like to go to the trampoline park, right? Like you can literally do things, have experiences there that you just can't have without it being arranged in a certain way. So
Yeah.
that's something that events might offer and be looking to accomplish.
Hmm.
There's events that have outcomes that they're looking towards, right? Like whether that's competitions or like film festival or whatever.
Hmm.
Or I was part of 24-hour play festival back in the day where
Yeah,
we
those are so
together.
cool.
So it depends on what you're trying to accomplish.
Hmm.
And as with all things, you want to look, this idea of being good or bad at art forms, that what we mean by that is like more likely or less likely to be able to make money off of that art, right?
Hmm.
So it's a
Yeah.
concept that came along with an arts industry. The idea being that like there's only so much
Yeah.
money to be given to people who do that kind of art. So you're in a competition with other people who do that kind of art.
Hmm.
That's why we frame it in that good bad kind of a way.
Hmm.
Uh, And even though that's not necessarily as relevant as it was at one point, it's not relevant at all. We still kind of use that paradigm. But that's not what art is about, obviously. Like, humans did not start singing in the hope that they would make money off of it.
No.
Art is about communication. It's interacting with other humans. And
Mm-hmm.
in some, like performance art, it's interacting with other humans in a particular way, but in the present, here and now context. Other versions of art is about interacting with other humans over any measure of time and distance. You know, like,
Mm-hmm.
if humanity spreads to the stars, there's still going to be people reading Shakespeare 1,000 years from now on Alpha Centauri 4 or whatever, you know, like, but that's what it's all about ultimately. And people who are looking for that kind of thing, that's what they're looking for, is human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And then it really does, I think, just come down to context. Everybody wants to have, especially with like events and festivals and things, people want to be able to be free to be whoever and not that I am a huge fan necessarily of like the drug culture around festivals, but
Mm-hmm.
that is, I think, an outgrowth of like what people are looking for in festivals is like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going away from my home, I'm going away from the city, like I'm going out to just drop all like societal convention and just like
Mm-hmm.
be the easiest, most default, lowest effort version of who I am, be impulsive,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to know that you're surrounded by other people that are going to be okay with that, and that you have infrastructure around you to take care of you in case anything goes wrong, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Comment here. It's funny how easy it is to forget the impact of seeing something in person. There are so many things that I think I understand through a screen, and then I go see in person, and it feels so different. I have to remind myself that I'm not getting the full experience online. I think
I
that's,
feel much different in my body in person too. Like I get way more full body chills in like in-person performance art than I get with so I do think there, I don't know the energy component, but then also for me, like if I'm having more of a low energy season of life where I have more pain or whatever, then I'd rather have some interaction with art on the internet than no interaction with art at all. So I'm not like judging the choice to
I will say
do the
that like
screen version.
a lot of what happens online is like not as valuable as some other version of that thing, right? Like, I don't think that social
Absolutely.
media is as valuable as actual interpersonal, like face-to-face social interaction.
Hmm.
And it's a lot better than none at all.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh
so
yeah.
I think that's where a lot of people are getting stuck on like how to figure this whole thing out, is we know it's not as
Oh, can
good
I
as,
tell you a story?
yeah.
This, I think this applies to neurotribes. So um Margaret and I do a weekly group at 3 p.m. Chicago time called Neurotribes for Trying Times, and it's free to join. And we've had people join and then like feel like they built up the courage to make some more like in-person friendships or things like that, and then stop coming to the group after they're like, oh, I found like people in my local community. So I think sometimes like bridging that gap of like trying to connect with strangers and seeing what happens and being like, oh, this feels hard, and like I'm being honest with, and so it's yeah, so I do think there's also, at least for a lot of my clients, a big difference of putting yourself out there online to try to connect with more people versus in person, and kind of gaining some of that like social courage to try to be more connected. I feel like this is I'm reading your facial expressions, Brandon. What are you thinking?
I
I
mean,
don't think I'm reading them correctly.
I know, I agree with you. Look, there are some things that you can get through digital technology that are valuable and that you just can't get in any other way. There are
Hmm.
some things that you can get through digital technology that are as valuable as other versions of it, but potentially different ways. And there are some
Hmm.
things that are not as valuable as an in-person version of it, or a
Hmm.
higher effort version of it, or whatever, but are still valuable. Uh, and I do think it's because we simplify everything. We like to try and find like what's good, what's bad, and that's
Hmm.
causing a real problem for people with the shift in technology, because we want to be able to put it into a category of like social media is good or it's bad, instead of like there's value to it and it's not as good as this thing, but it's cheaper. So in this context, it's better to use. And so that leads to people overgeneralizing, almost like, you know, if people wanted to decide that eating food is good or bad, instead of like, obviously there are times, you know, there's certain kinds that are more likely to be bad for you, but hey, if you're starving, eat whatever kind, you know.
Yeah.
And it needs more nuance than that.
Yeah.
But like, it's the just world fallacy. We make the assumption that the world is the way that it is meant to be. Like everything works as it should, except for anything where we have specific knowledge to the contrary. That's with all biases. It's assumptions where we don't have some specific knowledge that overrides it. So everybody knows that there's like stuff that isn't how they'd want it to be. But then there's other stuff that people just don't question, including things like, you know, privacy, which is a really new idea for humans.
What is
privacy?
Oh, okay.
You know, the idea of having like your own living space, even your own room within a building. Like these are very new things. We're not adapted, and that doesn't mean it's bad and we shouldn't have it, but it does mean like you can't predict all the downstream effects, right? And so having privacy is great, and having indoor plumbing is really great, and HVAC systems is really great, and food distribution networks that mean that there's reliable food almost everywhere you go where humans are. And it leads to humans like fracturing and isolating more than we historically have by quite a bit. So then there's some pain points that come up, and we look for things to address that. And then, like no matter what older people like to think and joke about younger people, like nobody would rather be on their phone than hanging out with their friends like face to face in real life at all times.
At all times. Yes.
Times where we want to do that. But for the most part, like anybody who's like, you know, people will be like, oh, my kid just wants to go on their iPad or whatever. Yeah, unless it's like, oh, but here's your, you know, my kids like to use their iPad, but when my son's friends get over to our house on their bikes and knock on the door, nobody has to tell him to put that away, or you know, he's more interested in doing that, you know. And so it's complicated, and we got to do our best to try and be flexible. And eating food is definitively bad. I can prove it with all the health problems I have related to eating food. We should all stop. There's so many of these fallacies. Like it's also
looking for connection, looking for carbs.
It's not just that it's like lower cost to do something online because you don't have to go out and like, you know, move your body and travel and whatever. It's also safer. You're much less vulnerable. Nobody can trigger you through the internet. There's upsides and there's downsides. And we want to do our best to make thoughtful decisions about what costs we pay in order to make what value, what risks we take, and what sacrifices we make for what gain. It would be really nice if it was simple, but it just isn't. But
and I do think thinking about like, so if you see someone that you want them to be putting themselves out there more, like what is a bridge between where you want them to be and where they are now, instead of
you
just
mean in terms of like making art?
No, I was thinking about like like when older people talk about Gen Z, it's like, how do you make a bridge to get them to reconnect more with other people, instead of just being like, oh, what they're doing is inherently bad, or like it needs, like I feel like there's the binary of like it's all bad or it's all good keeps people from making a bridge and connecting to each other and finding, I mean, it kind of relates to executive functioning coaching, where like, what is the lowest cost option for a person to change their behavior slightly to reach a goal versus like,
I mean, the most like the best general answer I can give is if you want somebody to do something differently than they're doing it, including yourself, you give them a better best option. Assume that what people are doing is the best option for them. And you have to give them a better one. And that can be as simple sometimes as introducing them to the concept. You know, like
Mhm.
It could be that what I'm doing, I could be doing something else that's even better for me, but I don't know about that thing or didn't consider that thing. So
Mhm.
sometimes it is that simple. But
Yeah.
mostly what's happening is people want other people to do things differently. And this isn't like laziness or selfishness. It's an inherent thing. We have finite resources and we don't want to spend our resources on making that happen.
Yeah. Yep.
So if you take a look at it through that lens, you'll find that a lot of the like advice and philosophy about how people should interact, whether it's parent child or romantic relationships or friends or employee employee or whatever, a lot of it is based around this idea of like other people should do the things that I want instead of what they're currently doing, and I
Mhm.
shouldn't have to do anything to make that happen. And a
And
lot
then
of that,
sometimes like pathologizing it too, like if you like sacrifice something about yourself to help this other person change, that means that you're codependent or what, like,
right?
so even like judgments of like almost like you gave too much or tried too hard and they should just do it themselves or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and I want to say that a lot of that is like valuable. All of it's understandable, but some of it's even valuable, and some of it isn't, and it's just context dependent, right? And I
Mhm.
would agree with many statements about like, well, they should do something different without me having to do anything different. And there's any number of circumstances where I would also agree that like, yes, that would be better or that would be fair or whatever. But in practice, it doesn't really matter what's something that's considered to be fair. It matters what happens. And if you want things to be different, you either can do things to try and influence that, or you can not and just hope that other things take place that make it so that it changes, which does happen. And sometimes that's the best thing to do is to wait for things to change, but there's no in between.
Mhm.
You mean to tell me I can't therapize my way into making my friends spend more time with me? Then what am I even doing here? Uh, no, actually, you can. In fact, that's my point. We can very much influence what other people think and feel and do by talking. That's the whole point of art. It's about communication. It's not an industry in its
Mhm.
origin. Of course,
Mhm.
because of the struggle, and this is not anyone doing anything wrong. The way our culture works, like money is a very important tool that as far as I am aware, like no, there has not been any alternative identified to make a society on this scale work without money being utilized in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Some version of like a universal exchange rate of human
Mhm.
energy, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh no, if I have to art my way into making my friends spend time with me, I'm doomed. I mean,
You can
not for
also
nothing,
talk your way into it.
but what do we think TTRPGs are, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you're talking about how theater is going to change. I think the boom in TTRPGs is part of what I would think of as like what theater is becoming, where everybody gets to
Yeah.
participate in it together.
Yeah.
And is there still an appetite for
Oh,
audience?
that makes me want to do the archetypal role play group like tonight. Oh.
Uh, so yeah, I don't know. It's complicated. You do what you can do, but if you want someone to change what they're doing, you give them a better, best option. That can be about how you communicate and the information that you share, but it can be about all like if my son is playing his iPad, my 4-year old's like watching videos on his iPad or whatever, and I'm like, hey, you want to go outside and play baseball? He wants to go outside and play baseball with me, right?
Mhm.
But sometimes I don't want to do that, or I have something else I'm trying to focus on, or I have to work,
Yeah.
and well, I want you to do it anyway, and that's totally valid, understandable, whatever. But you know, what's real and what we want it to be are two different things. Um,
Mhm.
I do manage to hold my friends hostage twice a week and make them play with my little art projects. That has been useful. Whoops, I meant every other week, not twice a week. Uh,
I love that.
yeah, I anyway, we got to wrap up. But yeah, I mean,
We do have to wrap up.
communication is communication. The form changes, and technology. Nobody wants to go back in terms of technology. We people frequently want to go back in terms of like the specific impact that the new technology has had or the form that has taken. But
Mhm.
nobody's like, man, I wish I had to like send a letter by ship that will take 3 months to get to my friend
Mhm.
in Europe. Right? Like,
Mhm.
so we just got to do our best to adapt. And anybody who's like, no, this is just bad and we should go back to the way things were is a wrong. Like doesn't mean that the way things were perfect either. It's just what they're used to. and B, not going to be able to do anything because that's not real. It doesn't have any impact. You're just judging
Yeah, I'm
people.
noticing this new like subset of the culture who's like trying to reject certain types of technology, but then they isolate themselves and they don't have much impact. And so then it's like they're, I don't know, kind of just giving
Ironically,
up.
I would suggest this is totally anecdotal. I don't have like scientific data on this, but I would suggest that there's a correlation between how much I hear a person talking about like how we should go back and things are worse than they used to and whatever, the more that person spends time online.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like it's hard to isolate yourself with like humans really don't do well being actually isolated from social interaction, but it's a lot easier to isolate yourself into your bedroom or whatever if you're watching TV all day or scrolling social media, or that you have that limited version of
Mhm.
social interaction.
Mhm.
And yes,
Well,
there are.
thanks for being here with us today, world.
Yeah. Thanks for the stream. I do often wish my friends would write me physical letters to send in the mail, actually, but not to replace a phone call. Yeah, I think letters are cool. I don't write them, but they do seem cool. But I
The
don't want
last
to be
time I
the
wrote
only option.
the last time I wrote letters, I was on vacation and I had no work to do, and I wrote a bunch of postcards, and it was so wholesome. I loved it so much. But I think that's another thing of like, how much energy do we have? Not that that was like a serious comment, but it is fun to receive a letter sometimes, I
Yeah,
agree.
postcards are great. Send postcards to yourself while traveling, or more common. It's a fun idea.
Yeah.
It's a great
Well,
souvenir.
thank you
Yeah.
for being here with us, everybody.
Good to be with you all. We'll be back next week, same time.
Next week, Monday, same time.